I never expected her to remember my name, let alone everything else. It started in the most ordinary way possible. Tuesday evenings, around 9, after helping Hamza with his coursework, I'd end up in their kitchen waiting for a ride or pretending to check my phone. His mom, Nadia Ani to everyone else, would usually be there making tea like it was a nightly ritual she didn't question anymore. Steam, soft yellow light, the quiet hum of the fridge. Nothing cinematic, just familiar. "You take less sugar, right?" she asked once, already pouring. I nodded, a little surprised. "Yeah, I think I mentioned that once." "You did," she said. "You made a face at Hamza's tea." I laughed. She didn't. Not seriously, just that small smile people wear when they're storing something away. After that, she always remembered the sugar, the way I liked the cup rinsed with hot water first, even the fact I preferred the chair near the window. It sounds small, but when you live alone in a rented flat where nobody notices if you come home late or not at all, small things feel louder. I didn't tell anyone about those evenings. There wasn't anything to tell, technically. Ustea, just conversation. Just her occasionally asking how work was going and actually waiting for the answer. Still, I started lingering longer than necessary. Sometimes Hamza would disappear to his room, headphones on, leaving us in that quiet kitchen. I'd catch myself folding the edge of a napkin over and over while we talked, like my hands needed somewhere to put the nervous energy. "You're very quiet tonight," she said once. "Am I?" I shrugged. "Just tired." She nodded slowly, like she knew tired wasn't always about sleep. I had drafts of messages on my phone I never sent, to friends, to an ex who'd stopped replying months ago, sometimes even a Hamza about random stuff I ended up deleting. It was easier to sit there with tea than explain why silence had started to feel safer than conversation. And then there were the small, almost invisible moments. The way her eyes flicked to my hands when I spoke, then away quickly. The way she'd laugh softly, then glance toward the hallway like she'd said too much. Once, when our fingers brushed passing the sugar bowl, neither of us pulled back immediately. Not dramatically, just slower than normal. We never addressed it. That was probably the strange comfort. Nothing said, nothing defined. One night it rained hard enough to delay my ride. Hamza was asleep already. The house felt different at that hour, like sounds carried further. She poured tea again, though neither of us had finished the first cup. "You don't mind waiting?" she asked. "No," I said, and meant more than the ride. We sat without talking for a while. Clock ticking, rain tapping against the glass. She stared at her cup like it held instructions she hadn't decided to follow. "You remind me of someone," she said eventually, then shook her head. "Actually, no, that's not fair." I didn't ask who. After that night, something subtle shifted. Nothing obvious, just a weight behind the silences. I told myself it was harmless. She was my friend's mom. Married. Established life. I was just passing through. Still, when I got home, the quiet in my apartment felt heavier than usual. I opened my phone, typed "thank for the tea tonight," then deleted it. Too formal. Too something. I was about to sleep when my screen lit up again. Her name. A single message. "Are you awake? I probably shouldn't ask this, but could you come by tomorrow evening? Just you." I almost didn't go the next evening. Her message sat on my phone all day like something fragile or dangerous. I kept opening it, rereading the "just you" part, then locking my screen again as if that would make it less real. By the time I reached their house, the sky had already gone that dull blue before full dark. Hamza's bike wasn't outside. That made my chest tighten in a way I didn't want to analyze. She opened the door quickly, like she'd been standing nearby. "Oh, good. I wasn't sure you would." A pause. "Come." Her voice was normal, but her hands weren't. She kept smoothing the edge of her sleeve over and over. The kitchen looked the same, kettle ready, 2 cups already out. Routine, pretending nothing unusual was happening. "Hamza's at his cousin's tonight," she said casually. Too casually. I nodded. "Okay." Silence settled again, heavier than before. Not uncomfortable exactly, just aware. She handed me tea. Less sugar. Exactly how I liked it. "You must think I'm strange," she said suddenly. "I don't. You should." A small smile. Most people would. I leaned against the counter, unsure where to put my eyes. "Why'd you ask me to come?" She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she sat, wrapped both hands around her cup, staring at the steam like it might carry the right words up with it. I used to have a lot of noise in my life, she said finally. Family, work, guests, constant calls. Then things changed. Marriage isn't always what it looks like from outside. She stopped there, like she'd reached a boundary she wouldn't cross tonight. I didn't ask for details. Somehow not asking felt kinder. I guess, she added softly, I just wanted someone to talk to who doesn't already have an opinion about me. That landed heavier than anything dramatic could have. Because I understood it. The quiet kind of loneliness. The one you don't post about. Still, the situation hovered in my head. My best friend's mother, mid-40s, married, and me, barely settled in my own life. I imagined Hamza walking in unexpectedly. Imagined explanations that would never sound clean. My brain kept drawing worst-case scenarios while my body stayed rooted to that kitchen floor. We talked about safe things after that. My job, her old teaching days, a vacation she once planned but never took. Nothing overtly emotional, yet everything underneath it was. At one point, she asked me to help fix a loose cabinet hinge. I held the door steady while she tightened screws. Our shoulders brushed accidentally. Neither of us stepped away right away. Tiny moment. Loud heartbeat. When it was done, she laughed quietly. Teamwork. Yeah, I said, though it sounded like I meant something else. Another stretch of silence followed, but it felt shared now, not empty. As I got ready to leave, she walked me to the door. Normal courtesy. Except she didn't open it immediately. Instead, she looked straight at me, steady, searching, then reached out and adjusted my collar where it had folded inward. A small, almost motherly gesture on the surface. Her hand lingered half a second longer than necessary. Take care of yourself, she said. Simple words, but something in her eyes suggested she meant more than just the walk home. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because for a second there, it felt like someone had quietly decided I mattered. I started spacing out my visits after that night. Not intentionally at first. Just letting days stretch longer between them. Partly work, mostly caution. Hamza noticed before she did. You've been ghosting us, he said one afternoon, half joking, but not entirely. Mom asked if you're okay. That word, Mom, landed heavier than usual. I've just been busy, I said, which wasn't completely false. Just incomplete. He shrugged, but his eyes lingered a second too long, like he was adding things up. That evening I almost texted her. Didn't. Typed. Deleted. Same routine. Silence felt safer again. Until it didn't. Her message came 2 days later. Everything okay. Kitchen feels too quiet lately. Nothing dramatic. No akiyasashin. Somehow worse. I went over the next night. The house was louder than usual. TV running somewhere. Utensils clinking. Normal family noise. A reminder. A boundary line drawn in everyday sounds. She looked relieved when she saw me, though she tried to hide it behind that usual calm expression. She asked. Yeah. We fell into the familiar rhythm. Kettle, cups, steam between us. But the conversation didn't flow the same. Small pauses stretched longer. Words chosen more carefully. You've been distant, she said finally. Have I? Yes. A beat. It's okay if you need space. That should have made things easier. Instead, it made my chest tight. It's not space, I said, then stopped. Because what was it? Age difference. My best friend. Her marriage, whatever shape it was in. All the invisible complications sitting at the table with us. She nodded slowly, like she understood the things I hadn't said. That almost made it harder. We drank tea mostly in silence after that. Comfortable once. Now charged. At one point, she reached for her phone, frowned. I swear I left it here earlier. I spotted it near my elbow and slid it toward her. Our fingers brushed. Not accidental enough to ignore. Not deliberate enough to claim. Neither of us commented. Then footsteps in the hallway. Hamza's voice, distant but approaching. Mom, have you seen Oh? He paused when he saw us. Nothing obvious. Just a slight eyebrow lift. Quick glance between us. Gone almost immediately. Hey, he said to me. Casual. Maybe too casual. Didn't know you were coming. Last minute, I replied. He nodded, grabbed something from the counter, left again. but the air didn't settle back the same way. After that, conversation felt monitored, even alone. When I stood to leave, she walked me out again. Habit now, or excuse. At the door, neither of us reached for the handle immediately. You don't have to disappear, she said softly. Even if this is complicated. The word hung there. I want to ask what this meant to her. Friend's mom. Temporary comfort. Something riskier. Instead, I said nothing. Typical. She stepped slightly closer. Not enough to touch. Enough that I noticed her perfume. Faint, familiar now. I don't want to make your life messy, she added. I almost laughed. Too late for that, probably. For a second, just a second, it felt like we might close the distance. Her eyes flicked to my mouth, then back up. Mine probably did the same. Breath held. Thought unfinished. As she stepped back first. Good night, she said. And somehow that small retreat said more than any confession could have. It happened on a walk neither of us planned. I'd stopped by to return a book she'd lent me. Something I'd barely read because every margin note in her handwriting felt oddly personal. Hamza wasn't home again. That detail was starting to feel less coincidental, though neither of us addressed it. Do you want some air? She asked after I handed the book back. Just around the block. Simple enough. Safe enough. The evening was warm, the kind where the street sounds blur together, distant traffic, someone laughing on a balcony, a dog barking once then settling. We walked side by side, not touching but aware of the space. For a while we talked about nothing. Groceries. A new cafe opening nearby. Work deadlines. The usual protective layer of ordinary conversation. Then she went quiet. I noticed before I looked at her. Her hands had slipped in her sleeves, fingers hidden, shoulders slightly drawn inward. A posture I was starting to recognize when something inside her was loud. Did I make this complicated for you? She asked suddenly. I exhaled slowly. It was already complicated. Because of Hamza. That, and everything else. She nodded, gaze fixed ahead. I worry he notices more than he says. I think he does. Silence again. Longer this time. The kind that hums. We reached the small park at the end of the street and sat on a bench that faced nothing particularly scenic, just a closed kiosk and a flickering streetlight. Oddly fitting. She spoke without looking at me. I didn't expect to look forward to your visits. Pause. That wasn't part of the plan. What plan? To just keep things steady. Predictable. A faint smile. Mid-40s survival strategy. I let that settle, because I understood the subtext. Marriage routines, aging expectations, the quiet reshaping of identity no one warns you about. I didn't expect it either, I admitted. She finally looked at me then. Really looked. Not polite. Not casual. Searching. Sometimes I wonder, she said, voice softer now, if I'm being unfair to you. Ow! You're young. You should have uncomplicated things. People your age. Less, she gestured vaguely between us. Mess. Wait. I didn't answer immediately. Because the truth was messy. Yes, it was complicated, but it also felt real in a way other connections hadn't lately. A breeze moved past us. She brushed hair from her face, fingers slightly shaky. I get jealous sometimes, she said, almost under her breath. That caught me off guard. Jealous. When you mention coworkers, or plans, or when you disappear for days. She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. Ridiculous, right? Not ridiculous. Just dangerous to acknowledge. My chest felt tight. Words hovered, but didn't fully form. Something between reassurance and confession. You matter to me, I said finally. Careful, measured, but honest. She closed her eyes briefly, like that landed somewhere sensitive. And you matter too much, she replied. Neither of us moved for a while after that. Just breathing, listening to the distant city noise. Her hand shifted slightly on the bench, closer to mine, not touching yet. A question without words. I could have closed that gap. Probably she could too. Instead, we stayed suspended there, both aware that one small movement might redraw everything. After a long moment, she whispered, almost to herself, where would this even go if we let it? The next few days felt strangely normal. Too normal. No messages from her. No casual texts. Nothing. At first I told myself she was busy. Families, routines, life, all the things she'd always balanced before I complicated the equation. Still, my phone screen started getting checked more often than necessary. Then Hamza mentioned it without realizing what it did to me. Mom's sister's visiting next week, he said during lunch. House is chaos already. She's been weirdly stressed. Weirdly stressed. That fit, but it didn't explain the silence. I almost stopped by that evening. Walked halfway down her street even. Then turned back. If she wanted distance, showing up unannounced felt unfair. Or maybe I was protecting myself. A few more days passed. When she finally texted, it wasn't what I expected. Hey, I think we should cool this down a bit. Nothing dramatic. Just perspective. Perspective. Such a tidy word for something messy. I stared at the message a long time. Typed did I do something? Deleted it. Typed okay, if that's what you need. Deleted that too. Every version sounded either defensive or too agreeable. Emotional whiplash. That's the only way I can describe it. One week we're almost crossing lines on a park bench. Next week we're politely stepping back like colleagues. Hamza added another layer without meaning to. Mom's husband might move back for a while, he mentioned casually one afternoon. Work situation changed. Her husband. The almost absent detail suddenly very present. She'd never lied about being married. She just hadn't elaborated. And I hadn't asked. Some silences feel safer left intact until they don't. That explained things. Or complicated them further. I started imagining scenes I wasn't part of, conversations in their living room, decisions made without my name spoken aloud. Maybe guilt finally caught up. Maybe practicality did. I respected it, at least outwardly. Inwardly was messy, eh? I'd catch myself opening our chat window at night, thumb hovering over the keyboard, wanting to ask if she was okay, wanting confirmation that those quiet evenings hadn't been imagined. But I never hit send. One evening, I passed her house again. Lights on in the kitchen. Familiar silhouette moving behind the curtain. For a second, I thought about knocking. Just casually. Like before. I didn't. Instead, I stood across the street longer than necessary, then walked home. It wasn't heartbreak exactly. No dramatic chattering. No anger either. Just suspension. I didn't feel heartbroken. I felt paused. Like life forgot to finish the sentence. That night, I typed one more message. If you ever want tea again, I'm around. I watched the cursor blink. Long, patient, almost expectant. Then I locked the phone without sending. And somehow that silence said everything I still didn't know how to. I didn't plan to see her again that soon. It just happened. Grocery store, late evening, the quiet hour when shelves are half restocked and nobody lingers. I almost didn't recognize her at first. Hair tied back differently, expression more guarded than usual. She saw me at the same time. That small mutual pause. The kind where both people consider pretending they didn't notice. Neither of us did. Hey, she said. Hey. No drama. Just two syllables carrying a month's worth of unsaid things. We ended up walking out together without deciding to. Same direction, apparently. Or maybe neither of us wanted to end the conversation under fluorescent lights. Outside, the air felt cooler than expected. I got your message, she said quietly. I frowned. I didn't send one. She smiled faintly. Exactly. That landed deeper than I expected. We reached her gate before either of us addressed the obvious. She rested her grocery bag on the low wall, not opening the gate yet. Familiar territory. Her doorstep had hosted enough unfinished conversations already. My husband's back, she said. Not defensive. Just factual. Temporarily, maybe, or longer. We're still figuring that out. I nodded. There it was. The missing piece finally spoken aloud. And I realized, she continued, I was starting to lean on you in a way that wasn't fair. To you. To him. To myself. I appreciated the honesty, even if it stung a little. I didn't need perfection, I said carefully. Just clarity. She exhaled, long, relieved, like she'd been bracing for something harsher. I was scared you'd ask for something I couldn't give, she admitted. And I was scared you'd disappear without explanation. A beat. Which you kinda did. Yeah. A small, apologetic smile. I did. Silence settled again, but this time it didn't feel sharp. Just honest. I looked at her, really looked. Same warmth, same steadiness. But also tiredness I hadn't noticed before. Real-life tiredness. Responsibilities, history, complicated loyalties. And suddenly the choice felt clear. Not easy, just clear. I care about you, I said. Simple. No do querastion. But I don't want to be the thing that makes your life harder. Her eyes softened immediately. Moist, but not breaking. That's exactly why I cared about you, she replied. You never tried to take more than I could offer. For a second, I thought she might step closer. She didn't. Instead, she reached out and briefly squeezed my wrist, light grounding. Not romantic. Not distant either. Just human. Okay, she asked softly. I nodded. Okay. No grand farewell. No promises. Just that small understanding passing between us. She picked up her groceries, finally opened the gate, then turned back with the faintest smile. The same one from those tea nights, but steadier now. And somehow, that quiet okay felt more complete than anything louder could have been. Time didn't fix things overnight. It rarely does. For a while, we went back to being careful. Polite check-ins. Occasional messages about ordinary things. A book recommendation. A joke about burnt tea. A photo of a stray cat that had started visiting her porch. Nothing loaded. Nothing risky. Her husband eventually moved out again. Quietly. No dramatic fallout. Just one of those adult decisions people stop announcing after a certain age. She told me weeks later, over text, in one simple sentence. We're okay, just separately now. I didn't rush over. That part mattered. We'd both learned what leaning too quickly could do. Instead, routine rebuilt itself slowly. Saturday mornings became neutral ground. A small cafe halfway between our places. First time we went, we sat outside without discussing why that felt safer. She ordered tea. I ordered black coffee. Some habits stick even when circumstances change. At exactly 8:47 a.m. One morning, she laughed softly while checking her phone. What? I asked. Nothing. Just funny how predictable we've become. Same time, same drinks. Predictable isn't bad. No, she agreed. Not anymore. That anymore carried history, but not weight. More like acknowledgement. Weeks turned into months. Conversations stretched naturally again. Not secretive this time, just steady. We talked about work, family, aches in her shoulder she blamed on age, my ongoing confusion about where my career was heading. Real life stuff. Grounded. Sometimes we'd take that same evening walk past the park bench where everything once almost tipped over. We never dramatized it. Just a quiet mental bookmark we both seemed aware of. One evening, without ceremony, our hands ended up brushing while walking. Neither of us pulled away. No fireworks. No dramatic pause. Just continued steps, slightly closer together. That was how most things happen with us now. Incremental, unannounced. Hamza adjusted too, surprisingly easily. He'd grown up, moved cities for work, started seeing us less as separate roles and more as two people he happened to know. That helped. Removed the last invisible audience. Life didn't become perfect. We still had occasional awkward silences, misread moods, days when old caution resurfaced. But there was warmth underneath it now. Earned, not assumed. This morning was typical. 8:47 a.m. Again. Tea for her. Black coffee for me. Sunlight soft, not dramatic. She slid a thermos toward me. Matte blue, same small dent. Back up, she said. So you stopped stealing mine. I smiled. Didn't argue. We sat there, not rushing, not overanalyzing. Just present. And it struck me, this wasn't the intense, almost something from before. It was quieter. Better somehow. Like we'd finally stopped trying to define it and started living it instead. No big declarations followed. None needed. When we stood to leave, she gave my wrist that same brief squeeze she always does. Habit now. Anchor point. See you Saturday, she asked. Yeah, of course. Walking away, I realized something simple. We hadn't chased a dramatic ending. We just arrived. And somehow, that felt exactly right.